Welcome, everybody, to the Scene Snobs podcast. I am your host, Mick Manhattan, the Scene Snob, and we have with us today a very special guest. He is an old and dear friend of mine for nearly 20 years. He is a music industry professional, which I'm very excited about because I don't get normal music industry professionals on here, so it's a breath of fresh air. But regardless, there is a disclaimer to this episode. Since we've known each other this long, you're probably going to hear a lot of laughter because that's who we are. But I want to welcome my very good friend and owner and music producer for Unlisted Productions, Derrick Spears. What's going on, buddy?
Oh, man, great to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate this.
Thank you for coming on, man. I'm so excited. One, that we get to just especially during this quarantine, sit and talk to each other. Two, that we're going to laugh, and three, that we're going to, I get to interview you, because you're doing so much, and I've been following your career, and
I know.
Exciting, man. I'm your fan. You know me. I'd say I'm your number one fan, but I know the kids are.
They better be. They don't have a choice.
Well, don't worry. My kids are your number one fan, too. They don't even know I exist.
Oh, good. So I'm doing great on both fronts.
I had to introduce them to hip hop. Come on, man.
Yeah, no, it's a must.
But D, I'm glad I have you on the show, and I want to talk to you about your starting. Like, I know where you started from, but with the music and getting into it and producing, I want to fill the fans in, or my fan, I should say, and on your career, man. It's very exciting.
No, I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you, man. It's always great. When I was 17 years old, I started, making demos like 70 billion other people out there. Started writing for different people. By the time I was 18, I started getting some labels to notice some of the things that I was doing. Even on the underground back then, it was sending out cassette tapes, if people remember what those are. And we had some back and forth, and I say we because at the time I was rolling with a couple of the artists. Just wrote music and stuff like that. We got some shows, regular kind of story about getting noticed. Eventually, I got a record deal with a label that's now defunct named G Street Records. And they had me doing a lot of things. I was, opening up for a lot of the major artists, and I started making that way. After some time had passed, I started doing my own thing when I saw that the label wasn't really pushing my career, so I started writing. I still perform on tape, but primarily my goal is just, as a songwriter. The reason I started my own label many years later was I wanted to inspire a lot of the younger artists because I felt like hip hop, the hip hop that I fell in love with and the hip hop that I feel wasn't getting the kind of notoriety it deserves. I was trying to give an outlet to younger artists that were coming up that wanted to be different, and every once in a while someone will come along that will really kind of shake up the industry. And I try to find a way to get those artists out there, whether it's helping develop their music, helping to make connections with other people. And sometimes, if a project isn't really moving the way I think, sometimes I'll just put together the project myself just to put it out there, just to, because you never know who you might inspire with something like that. So I try to come out with things that are very different, off the wall, some people would say, but I do it just to show people that there are people out there that want to do something different and want to do something new. And that's basically my whole, that's my whole reason for starting Unlisted Productions. So I'm always just trying to find artists. I work with them behind the scenes and try to help them get to whatever next level I can help them get to. So doing that, I write, I produce, I do, you know, different types of whatever it takes to get projects out there.
Which I think one of the things I love about it, and you know me with my, you know, the filmmaking background, it was great because I remember when I left for film school many moons ago, you had kind of picked up with doing your own music videos and your photography. And I was, again, I'm watching your career. My dear friend is out there and he's doing it. And I'm like, I should have never left for film school. I should be there with you. You have surpassed me, sir, with your look in photography and your videos. And I was like, I'm a good producer. All right, I'll give you that. But I was like, the look, I'm like, they look amazing. I was like, I'm paying $100,000 for this, and Dee is just out there doing it.
Well, first of all, that means so much to me coming, you know, from somebody like you. I know I respect and, you know, love as a friend, and have, you know, have always been hearing about your passion for movies and filmmaking. So that means a lot to me. But really, it started because I couldn't find the right people to do things the way I was envisioning them. That's really how it started. You know, I worked with a couple of directors, and the first thing they wanted to do was to try to tell me to be like somebody else, or try to tell an artist that I was writing for to be more like so-and-so. And that just drove me up a wall. So I said, you know what? I went home one day after working with a director all day, shooting hours and hours of footage. I went home that day, started researching cameras, and I ordered a camera, even though at the time I did not want to try to, you know, that kind of expense. But that's what happens sometimes. And then I just, you know, use things that I learned to try to get my vision out there. You know, I mean, I don't want to be running around with the camera in one hand and then a pencil and a pen in another. You know, it's not about that. I mean, I enjoy it when it is done, though. That's a great thing. But at the time, I just did it really because I couldn't find somebody to really get the vision going. You know, I'm sure you as a, you know.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I completely get that, and I love that you did that, and I love that it does. You kind of inspired me with that too, because if you remember, I was doing different podcasts as a personality and doing the marketing and such for them, and then finally, after the last one kind of fell apart, not because somebody else wasn't willing to do it anymore, and it was his show, and I was like, all right, well, it's just time. I got to do this, and you know, so a lot of it is attributed to inspiration from you.
That.
You know, because you did that. But often I'm telling a lot of young filmmakers and such who watch the show, or who I talk about with online, about collaboration and why it's so important, and it's important to get out there and do these things. And I've seen you offer a lot to up and coming filmmakers too, to come in and help out and things like that, and then gain experience. What is, for you, if you could talk a little bit about collaboration in the music world, and when maybe you're doing shoots and things like that, how important is it to you? Because like you said, so many directors and such stepping in and saying, you need to do it like this, you need to look like this, or, you know, that's not collaborative. You're not collaborating or anything. So for you, how important is it to, you know, maybe take somebody else's visions while you're there and like work with your own and things like that?
Well, I think it starts, you know, I mean, it's you know, such it sounds like a throwaway line to a lot of people, but you really have to be on the same page, you know, with somebody as far as, you know, what's going to be the end result. You know, sometimes how you get there, you know, may cause some friction. But a lot of times if you have the end goal, you know, what are you trying to say with this project? And it's the same thing with music and with film, I feel, you know, from my point of view. And a lot of times, you know, bringing in somebody else may not be the best thing in the world, but when you find somebody that you can work with, you have to stick it out through the hard times. Now, in my situation, there's been times when if I feel like I won't take a project because I feel that if this person is going a different direction, I don't want to cloud their judgment. I don't want to be, raining on their parade.
Yeah.
And I hope that people feel the same way about me. And but collaboration is extremely important. If you can find, I've done work with this producer slash DJ named Erex. When I started to do the Unlisted Artist Project, in music, I was, coming out with songs that most producers would say, "Oh no, there's no way. This is nothing like what's on the radio right now." And he stuck with me. He saw my vision through. And that was like the real jump start to Unlisted Productions. And now I write for some people, and some people I just tell them, if this may not be right. This may not be a good choice, and I'll still respect you on the next project if you want to come back for the next project, but this project may not be right for me because I've had too many people rain on my parades, and I don't want to be that for somebody else. So I think it's important, just as important to know when to walk away from a project as it is to know when to collaborate. That's how I feel anyway.
That is a fantastic answer, and that's almost, it's like a new twist, not a new twist, but a new outlook on things that I haven't really touched down on before. But being able to leave ego aside, and being able to decide whether this is right for you or not, because we've all been there, in any aspect of life. It doesn't just have to be show business, for lack of a better term, but being able to walk away.
Sometimes money, as artists, I mean, sometimes we never know where the next paycheck is coming from.
Yeah.
And so, some people have the mentality to say money is money.
Oh my God.
Sorry.
No, that's perfect.
Money is money. No, some people say money is money. Some people say business is business, and business has no friends.
All right, I gotta interject there for a second for anybody who's listening or watching. D and I worked together years ago. That's how we met, working at a movie theater together. Very, very many moons ago. And that was something we would joke about, playing like the big-headed role to everybody we work with. Just like, money is money, whatever. Yeah.
No matter how bad, no matter money is money. That's it. That's it. You can boil money is money.
I remember that was your answer for everything, because you were a manager. And you'd be walking past, and somebody would have like some, I don't know, whatever question it is, like, does this need to go here? Or it was a very, I don't want to say minuscule, because work is work, but your answer would just always be like, money is money, and walk away. And everybody just knew you and was like, oh my God, like, knew you were kidding.
Yeah.
It always cracked me up. I'd always be laughing.
Doesn't it feel good to just say that, though? Doesn't it just like money is money? It just feels good to say it.
I bet it feels better for Jeff Bezos, but
yeah.
As he's lighting a cigar with his $1 million bill on fire, and the rest of us,
Monopoly man top hat on.
I still love that phrase. And until you said it, I think about it every once in a while, but until you said it, it just popped in my head like, oh my God, I can't believe we said that again. It's been so long.
But what I was saying was that, in order to walk away from the money, in the situation where you're an artist and, people have bills, it's hard for me to have that mentality, when it comes to artistry, because you don't want to hurt somebody's career, and they shouldn't want to hurt anybody else's career. But sometimes it happens, and I try to avoid that.
Mm-hmm. I think that type of integrity, though, helps you down the line, because you're always going to come back to that. And I've often heard from lots of, present company included on this, accomplished artists and creative types say that like helping people is what made my career successful. It wasn't like turning things down, and like, not that you can't turn things down, but like it wasn't turning people away. It wasn't putting ego first. It was, if somebody needs help and I'm in the, if I have the ability to help them or give them advice or not disparage them in any way by being a part of it or something. I think that is a, I've always believed, I believe if I do good, if I put good out there, good will come back to me. And so I like that you say that. One big thing is like recently I wrote a script years ago and it was kind of always been like my opus, like I was like, if this gets made, this is going to be the thing. And then I met a director. I was like, I'm going to direct this. I'm going to do this. And then I met a director and I saw his movie and I'm like, I don't think there's anybody else who could do this.
Wow.
I was like, I certainly can. And I haven't offered it to him yet, but I want to sit down and just be like, here.
Yeah. And it's so big to be able to hand over your baby like that. I mean, you're really entrusting somebody, but you're doing it for the good of the art.
Yeah.
And that's what I try to, that's exactly the same kind of mentality I try to have going into every project. If it's not going to be my best, I'd rather just not do it. And there's times when I take major hits for that, but it's worth it in the long run. It's worth it in the long run to be able to look back and say, well, everything I've done, I know that I've been 100% behind and I've done my 100% best. And it wasn't just about money is money.
It's money. Still love it. And I'm going to start using it. Every time my kids ask for something now, I'm just going to be like, oh, money is money.
Money is money.
No explanation, no nothing. That's Uncle Dave.
And then when I say it, they're gonna kick me in the shins because they'll know where it came from.
They're my kids. They don't kick in the shins. They're gonna roundhouse kick you because they're already 6'9". They're already taller than I am. Oh man. So clever. Dude, it's so refreshing to get these type of laughs down too, because it's been a while, and we've always laughed like this. Not many know, but we sat down and wrote a screenplay together, and of course I'm telling the story. It's a movie-based show. I got to tell the story. We sat down and wrote a screenplay together, which I'm telling you, if we Disney-fy it, they'd buy it. About a group of an elite assassins. It was like 21 Jump Street meets like an assassins movie. I can't think of it at the moment.
Somebody that knows every movie in the history of movies. That's the best you can do.
All right, because you got me laughing. I'm still thinking money is money.
21 Jump Street meets any movie where people get killed.
Oh my God! Listen, I still maintain that was a good one, man. And I remember who we said we should get the star in it.
Who we should get?
That's how long ago this was.
Who was it? Who was it?
It was Tretch.
Oh yeah! Oh wow! Right.
That's how long ago it was. We were just like, we should get Tretch to start. Great.
Right. I remember that now.
And you were all about the leader of the assassin group being Christopher Walken.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh my God, yeah. See, it shows how long ago it was, man.
It was a very long time ago. It was funny though. I did want to talk to you a little bit about going back to movies real quick. Actually, before we do this, I do want to talk to you about upcoming projects, because I know with quarantine everything is kind of up in the air. But what are you working on, man?
Well, speaking of that, I did write a song. I haven't told anybody about it. You'll be the first one to hear it, and then anybody who watches this.
Perform it now.
I'm sorry?
Perform it now.
Oh, no, I can't. Well, if you really need me to, like camera action, no. I gotta get my sequin jacket on. Hold on. No, it's a song that actually deals with what someone out there might be going through. Somebody who's healthy but alone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so the name of the song is Co-Isolation, and it's basically talking about all the thoughts that would go through your head that somebody might not say out loud. You know, all the crazy thoughts about it, like, looking in their kitchen is stocked, but they want to see people so bad they're thinking going to the store just because it's legal to go to the store to see people because they can't go to work. That office crush that they haven't seen her in weeks because, there's no work right now. So he's wondering, what might be going on in his, with the relationship with her, So it's something I touched on with that. And then I'm working on another song with my friends from Band Zero in India. Nice. We have a song called Run. And it's kind of sort of every song I do with them, it always deals with relationships. Always. It's always like a real deep emotional thing. And I love that about them because I feel like his voice, is just perfect. It really brings out emotion. So whenever I try to write something, so I produced the track for it and he's going to sing the hook and I'm going to do the rap on it. And then I have a video already in mind for it. I just have to wait for things to get back to normal. Those are the two major things. And I've been writing songs that will probably go to other people all the time. And with this time at home, with no going out every day to bring my eldest to school, I have that much more time. So I've just been writing.
I love that you say that too, because that was another thing, like during all the isolation and everything, with different people I've been talking to and filmmakers, I've been saying, like, use this time to write a script, use this time to write music, get it out there so when things start to open back up. And I talked to two producers the other day of their new movie is The Quarry, the new Michael Shannon, Shea Whigham movie.
Okay.
And you'd dig it. I think you'd really dig that movie. I talked to the producers and I was asking them, like, what are they up to? And they're like, things are kind of up in the air right now. They're more fortunate because they're riding the high of movies coming out before they have to go to the next project. But they're saying, like, we're hoping there's lots of people writing. So when this ends, like, we're going to need things. Everything's on hold. Nothing's coming out. So they're hoping, like, okay, give it to us and let's run with it, So, and
that's I mean, that's all you can do is make use of the time, especially if you're an artist. I've been seeing clips of here and there people doing, films in their house and in their yard, like little short films and stuff like that, just to pass the time. But people don't even realize sometimes what kind of creativity they can come up when they're forced to stay inside a box.
Yeah.
And I think that's, for an artist, or would-be artist, that's the only real, that's one of the positive things that you can have, if you're healthy. I mean, you're thankful for that, but get working on something. You're right. Yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. And this is, even doing this, it's just been helped with the isolation. So, I mean, it's just, again, I think flexing that creative muscle helps big time when you're in situations like this. So I'm glad to hear that, you can at least collaborate with other artists and do your music and write, especially. It's such an important thing. I did want to touch down a little bit on your kind of like your influences, or for just kind of marry the two of like where you're writing and things like that. You're writing and the music you're putting out. Well, who are some of your biggest influences? I don't mean to do it. It's weird to ask you that question because I know them.
Right. No.
As an interviewer, I'm like,
yeah, it's not just us here. I get it. Well, yeah, I'll say it as if you don't know. I mean, originally, I was inspired, heavily by Wu-Tang, heavily by, Naughty by Nature. They were another one. Heavily by Redman. people who were really creating a lot of music back then where there was nothing else out there like it. And that's kind of, shaped my, shaped my goals, that, I don't want to just, nowadays you have an artist that comes out with a song, it's a hit, and, the next day on YouTube, there's 50 million songs. People stayed up all night to get a song out there that's just like it. Even the people who are already established, living in mansions. And that to me is just, I don't know. It's not the same hip hop that I grew up with.
Yeah.
My influences, Tribe Called Quest. There's so many great artists out there that really influence me. Nowadays, because I write so much and because I try to write for other people, I listen to music a lot, but I don't listen to a lot of new music over and over like a lot of people. So it's hard for me to be influenced by somebody new, because I do that on purpose, because I want to try to stay fresh. I want to try to keep, I'll let some things in and I'll hear it and I'll say, okay, I really like this artist, and I'll go through whatever I can find from them. I'll listen to it and say, oh, wow, that's a really good artist. It's a really good album. But I'm not going to just keep listening to it like how I did Wu-Tang back in the day. I still listen to Wu-Tang nonstop over and over and over because, that's already so ingrained in who I am that, whatever's there is just already going to be there. There's no way I'm changing that. But those are the influences. But tell you the truth, a lot of people that inspire me over the years have also been R&B artists, 70s, 80s R&B, pop music, from... I listen to every genre, there's some jazz artists that I listen to constantly, Frank Sinatra, so I try to look at the emotion that they bring on records, and I try to bring that to my own records. And when I try to write things for other people, I try to write something that they're passionate about so it gets the performance it deserves. Not to say that my writing is like that, but you know what I mean? I'm trying to match them, trying to show something that, matches with somebody. I don't want to write a song for somebody talking about, flying on private jets if they've never seen a private jet.
Yeah.
Because
you can write that song for me. Remember, on my private jet, it just says money is money.
Money is money. That's it. And the album cover would be the face you made. Yeah.
Oh my God! Make sure you watch the video, everybody. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's always great. And I still, every time I'll put on Wu-Tang, and my kids will be listening to it, and I don't care. Like, you need to listen to Wu-Tang. Everybody needs to listen to Wu-Tang. But I started watching the show, and it's I don't know if you've seen it, but it's good. It's a good show.
What, the Saga?
Yeah, the American Saga.
American Saga. Oh yeah, I watched that heavily.
They did such a great job with that first season. I can't wait. And even like showing the actual music videos like he was doing before they blew up with Wu-Tang, it was amazing to watch. And
it was so accurately done. Like, when I was watching that scene, I felt like, it was hard to believe that actors and set designers and all these people recreated it so perfectly just to film that, because the video is a character. The video itself looming in the background was a character. It was a stepping stone to the RZA becoming the RZA. Like, as that part of it was such a major part in the RZA's life and how he had to deal with it. And every time he came on stage, this ain't me, man. He would tell people, this ain't me, man. And they were like, just do it. You don't understand. Those are the conversations that I fought my whole life to get away from. Just do it. Don't worry about it. It'll be great, Yep. Now, of course, the RZA took that and sprungboard into the atmosphere, the stratosphere. But not a lot of people get that. A lot of people doing that video could have went the exact opposite direction. Everybody could have said, oh, my God, he's terrible. And that would have been the end of them, So that's what I try to inspire younger artists. Like, do what makes you feel good. Do the music that makes you feel good, because If you wind up doing what everybody else says, then you're doing what makes them feel good, and that doesn't always work. You know.
You know what it is like watching that stuff too, and kind of keeping with the hip hop roots. Just from where we grew up, you know, we grew up in the ghetto. Me, Jersey City. You, Teaneck. You know, so like for us, it was, well, Ridgefield. But that's just like, so we were, hip hop, I think, is ingratiated in our souls a little bit, like, because but it's old school for me. It still is, like, even today, it's just not the same. And I know we've had this discussion before. And I think we kind of feel the same way. And especially, like, that's why I like your music so much. It reminds me. And you use so much in your sounds of, like, with R&B and such, and that's another one that was, like, so big for us. I took Mary on a tour of where I grew up in Jersey City, and she's like, and I pulled over. I was like, yeah, that was my old house. And she goes, why are you stopping? Right? And I'm like, I don't put anything past her, but she's just like, you know, because it's the ghetto. And I'm like, I don't know, I want to see my old house. Like, I'm not thinking about anything. You know, and I started thinking about that, like that scene in The Sopranos when he takes his son to his old house, and the gangbanger walks up on him, and it's like, it's Tony Soprano. You know, like he's from there. He's from the street. He knows how to handle the situation. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because we were watching the Wu-Tang show, and that's Staten Island. That's right across the bridge from us. You know, that's right there. And my kids were watching it, and they're like, what is this? And they're asking, well, not the 3-year-old. 3-year-old doesn't, he runs into walls. But the 8-year-old was asking, and I was just like, oh man, I was like, that's Staten Island. I used to go drink there. You know, just say, like, when I was young, like, we used to go to the bars there and stuff like that. And he was just like, really? And then it sprung into this whole thing of, like, what Wu-Tang did for me growing up.
Right.
You know, and like the music, and not just Wu-Tang, but like so many of those artists helped me get through, you know, my childhood and things like that, and like not just the bad, but also the good times, you know, and what music should mean.
Absolutely, Mike. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's the same thing. Like with me is you know, I was kind of like an angry kid. I don't know why, but I was always angry. And my parents used to, and my mother used to say, she used to say, like, one day you're gonna find something. She used to say that, and I was like, yeah, what am I gonna find? Like walking around like Yosemite Sam, you know, basically just you know, all the time, like. But I was just always angry, and I don't know exactly what it was. I think it was more that you know, I felt like I was, I guess, unfulfilled in a way or something. And I was just very angry. And you know, when I started really getting into music, I started writing. And I wasn't sitting down and writing my feelings so much. It was just writing. Just the feeling of writing just made me feel a lot better. And I had something to focus on. And so, you know, Wu-Tang was such, you know, such a big impact, you know, on that, because listening to their stories and stuff like that, and the vocabulary they used inspired me to want to know, you know, learn more, you know, rhymes and the words they were saying, the way they put it together, how all of them could sound completely different, even though they're all in the same record. I mean, it's incredible, you know, what they've done. And when I saw that show, I kept thinking to myself, I'm like, how did they have time to write with everything that was going on in their life? But it was because they're used to that. That was their normal.
Yeah.
You know, so them coming home and writing rhymes or whatever, or writing rhymes on the street corner or whatever, was the same normal that I had when I came home from school and wrote rhymes. You know, but it was just two different worlds. But you know,
that's why I love you, D, because that's what I was trying to get at with the story. Of like going to take my wife, and being like, this is like writing for me. And I think Wu-Tang and you know, it was a kind of a crazy one, because it's one of the first movies I saw where rappers were the star. Was House Party Kid and Play.
Right.
And it, you know, me loving movies and and where we grew up, hip hop stations were like, there was like 4 or 5 different hip hop stations. Whereas I'm in Virginia now, and I'm surrounded by cattle, and
Right.
I'm driving in the car, and I'm like, wow, where's the hip hop station? Like the one hip hop station. It's all country music. So for me, like hip hop was such a big influence on my life, especially because hip hop was all the hip hop artists were comic book fans.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, they were fans of that. They were fan of the kung fu movies, which I was a fan of, action, things like that, horror movies, which was, I mean, look behind me, like so many influences. So like when I was getting into it and I wanted to do this, it was hip hop that you could kind of connect with more. For me, anyway, just because you remember what it was like to be. Well, you don't remember what it was like, you good-looking bastard. But you actually remember me from my skinny days too, which is the funny part. But for me, like being a dork, you remember what it was like being that geek, and if you loved that stuff, you got picked on, and you had to worry about getting beat up every day. Not just like, hey, geek. It was like, no, you're gonna get beat up.
Right, physical beating up.
Yeah. But I never felt that way when I was listening to hip hop. Like everything else always seemed to like kind of push it away, that creative side. But hip hop never did, especially Wu-Tang. And I think that's why we always connected over them so much.
One thing to touch on real quick is that's why I love that movie 8 Mile. Because you have hip hop. They, sometimes if you Google hip hop movies, they start showing movies where, a guy really wanted to be a basketball player and this, that, and the other. And you're like, okay, this is a hip hop movie because they play hip hop throughout the background music, and then you have other hip hop movies where hip hop is like a small character of a love story, or hip hop is, they loved hip hop so much and that's what got him through to become a stockbroker. It's like those are the types of things. But 8 Mile to me is such like a realistic story. I mean, people have their mixed feelings about Eminem, but let's just take him out of it. Put any rapper there. Just put any rapper there for a minute. The fact that the whole story was surrounded around him having this dream, and the biggest goal in there was to win a rap battle.
Yeah.
At the end of the movie, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't to get the major record deal with the guy who just flew in from France to see the one show and it almost didn't happen. It was none of that. It was to win the rap battle.
Yeah.
And then into the rap battle, the realest thing, and this is why, like you said, you're starting to make the kids watch Star Wars and stuff like that for them to really like. That's how it was with my eldest, my daughter, about 8 Mile. Because I said, I want you to understand this. At the end of this movie, he went through this whole thing, trying and failing. And then he went there, he destroyed everybody in a hip hop battle. And at the end of the night, they said, man, we need to go celebrate. He says, man, I got to go to work.
Yeah.
And I said, that's one of the realest things that you can see in any hip hop movie with an artist trying to become a hip hop artist, is because it's not that easy. The major record label executives are not sitting in that club that is so packed that they have to stand like this because there's, 35 people trying to squeeze into the front row that's 8 seats.
Yeah.
So, and so I thought that was very real, and I loved it. I loved that about that. And that goes to what we're saying about, in that movie he was getting beat up and, his girlfriend was stolen. And I mean, it was just like one horrible thing after the other, but the one constant was him take a step closer and closer and closer to that rap battle.
Nope.
And then finally when he just destroyed the whole place, at the end of it, it was all over. It's like, okay, he's the man now. On the microphone, outside here, it's the regular life still. And that's what I loved about that.
It's great that you mentioned that, because it kind of brings me to my next point where we're talking about music and movies. And it seems like, and we've talked about movies that we love so much, and it seems like the stories are the most realistic, are heavy. And realistic, I mean, like kind of like how you put 8 Mile. So like I brought up House Party before. House Party is a very simple movie. House Party is dudes just trying to get to a house party, hook up, and not get in trouble because he's grounded.
Right.
That's it. But there's so many levels to it. to that day. Yeah, but music, I think it's crazy to me that movies like that, The Warriors is another one. It's just a group trying to get home. You boil it down, and yeah, they have adversity against them because they've been framed, but that's another one. And my point being, all of these are heavily rely on music.
That's right.
Music is what flows all of those movies. Look at Breakin'. They just want to win the dance battle.
Yeah, that's right.
That's it, to save their community center.
That's right.
And you can pick on that all you want. People have, and just been like, oh, it's just a bunch of great kids. But a community center means a lot to a dancing group in the ghetto, especially.
Yeah, where else are they gonna go? But these are great points, and like also what you said about the Warriors. Another thing, I love that movie. I love it so much. I can't turn it off. Once I see it's on, I just can't turn it off. But one thing that's also that I really love about that, when it comes to the connection of music and the streets, is the DJ. When she kept coming on narrating, she says, "Oh, it seems as if the Warriors have made it past the baseball Furies. Let's see if they can make it past the so-and-so and so, whatever gang they were supposed to meet next." And because my father always tells me stories that, listening to the radio when he was coming up, the DJ was like that friend that, it's like a friend of you, informed about how the vibe, what the vibe was in the streets. Nowadays, you could turn on your television and there could be 700 different news stations, that tell you what's going on in your neighborhood.
But just to add to your point real quick, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I just wanted to add before I forgot, like Hot 97 was one of our stations back in the day. But all of them were from where we were from. So when they talked about going to work that day and things like that and what was going on, you were right. It's almost like the best way to equate it movie-wise is Do the Right Thing, Samuel L. Jackson's DJ character.
Exactly. That's perfect. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Because you need that. Sometimes you need that connection. Some people want to detach from the world with sports or with music, but it's like the DJ of your favorite radio station has your ear for a reason. So if they bring it up, then it becomes something that puts in your mind to say, okay, you know what? I want to listen to this now, or now I know what I'm feeling out in the street. Now I understand why.
And I especially love that movie. That movie has my favorite song used in a movie, and that is "Hot Time in the City." At the end, it's still to this day my favorite. The best song. All right, I don't know how to properly explain it. For me, I love the way the scenery is going at that moment. They're walking away after this hellacious night. They've finally been vindicated. And then, the DJ comes on, played by Lynn Thigpen, who's amazing. And everybody should remember her from Where in the World's Carmen Sandiego? Remember that TV show? She played the chief. That's
right.
She was the voice throughout. She was the connection. And she plays this song because she knows it encapsulated that scene perfectly. For me, every time I think of music in movies, that's one that stands out for me.
That's where you go to. Okay. That's one of my favorite movies, that does that a few times in the movie is Dead Presidents. I talk about that a lot, that movie.
Oh, yeah.
The way that they really brought everybody watching the movie, because they're bringing you to an era, they're bringing you to an era, and Dead Presidents, has war scenes and it has all this different stuff, and they give you the music to set you in the mood, and there's a scene where Lorenz Tate is riding with Keith David, and in the background is Isaac Hayes' Walk On By. Like that music is just like, you can't listen to that and not just lean back in your seat and hold the wheel with one hand the way he was, you know, the way he was doing in that scene. It's like perfect things like that you know, just make you smile even after the movie's over. It's like you just thought about it. Like whoever came up with that imagery at that time, you know, mixing with that song or however they do it, you would know way better than me. But really, 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 really pull that off, you know.
And I think for me, like a lot of times talking to indie filmmakers, like I understand completely that buying music or spending your budget when you're making a movie on music isn't your first thought. But it should definitely be an important thought. Like, yeah, okay, maybe you shouldn't go out and buy, you know, a very expensive, famous song, but there's so many artists out there to try and collaborate with that are just selling their music, or just want credit.
Or just want credit, exactly.
You know, and I think that's so important. I think that's really important to me. For everybody to know is like when you watch a movie and you hear a song in that movie that's just perfect, like Pulp Fiction, everything in that movie was perfect. Reservoir Dogs, everything in that movie was perfect. That song wise, and everything was picked out deliberately. Guardians of the Galaxy is another good, you know,
perfect.
He went through and he wrote it to these songs and he picked them out perfectly. So for young filmmakers, if you're watching that and it makes you feel something, why do you think that you don't need to do that when you're making your movie?
Right. Because you're connecting with people out there that have already, you know, that are now experiencing your movie in a different way now. You know, it's like it's another level that you're basically, you know, making imagery to match the vibe of the song. Yeah. You know, it's important making, you know, that's why the music video is still extremely popular to this day, you know, is that some people can bring some imagery, you know, to your music that can make you really remember something for a lifetime, you know.
Oh yeah. And just think about how many famous directors out today that started with music videos, commercials and music videos.
Oh yeah. Speaking of hip hop movies that really had nothing to do with hip hop, but the movie Belly, you know, the first one was Hype Williams. I mean, the imagery in that, you know, when the music came on, I mean, one of the most the part that I remember the most about that movie is when they're wrapping up like mounds of cocaine and they're playing in the background, they're playing D'Angelo's Devil's Pie. And I mean, it was just the perfect kind of, you know, thing. And you're thinking to myself, like, oh my gosh, like, why do I feel good about what I'm watching? You know, it's because they pulled it off. You know, they pulled that off. I mean, they pulled off many scenes in that when it came to the music in the movie.
Oh yeah.
But that was the way that a lot of the hip hop movies that I feel, you know, should have, that movie should have inspired more, you know, movies where you had hip hop as the entire score basically, and the entire soundtrack, you know, was just so well done.
Yeah, to talk about Belly is funny. I'm watching that documentary on the Last Dance about the Chicago Bulls in the '90s and their runs. And it's funny because at one point they talked to Nas. And they talked to a bunch of people who were huge in the '90s. Nas transcending the '90s, and you know, he's still, yeah, he's way past that. But like, he started out, you know, getting as big as he was in the '90s. So I guess they brought him in to talk about, you know, Jordan and that effect on just pop culture.
Yeah.
And it was so funny. He popped up, and my kid goes, "Who is that?" And I was like, "That's Nas. You don't know who Nas is?" And I'm thinking, I'm like, I'm the one who's supposed to be teaching you this.
Yeah. You got offended.
But I did. But
you know who Nas is? Yeah.
Nas is off. Nas comes on, and that whole thing happens, and my wife just starts singing, "I rule the world." And I'm not paying for that.
Right. Yeah. That was very short. I think you're good.
It is amazing to me. Like, so many people ask me, like, why don't I have music on my podcast, even though I think music is so important? And I'm like, because I don't have any music. I have no musical talent whatsoever. And I'm like, I'm not coming up with anything. I was like, I just have to hope my kids are like prodigies and they can make me something.
Don't worry. I'll hook you up. I'm going to send you some things that you can use royalty free. Don't worry.
I'm not giving you credit. Money is money.
Money is money. Haven't you learned anything from this conversation? Money is money. I want it all, every cent.
On my jet with the door open, smoking a cigar. Keep it under 3,000. I don't want to fly out. Oh, I knew it was going to be like this.
I got to finish this cigar.
Once I'm done, then we can go. Then we can go higher. Oh, dude, I got to tell you, man, this has been a breath of fresh air just to be able to laugh with you. Oh, did you freeze?
Just a cloud of smoke and your voice just mocking people.
For anybody who doesn't know, we're back.
We're back. We're back.
They're laughing. I don't care. All these jokes stay in. They have to know who we are.
No, I know.
They have to know the good times with the pad.
We're trying to uplift people's spirits right now during the quarantine.
It is that time.
Every laugh counts.
Oh man, dude, I don't know. I just think every time we talk, I just think back to the days, and we were talking music and movies, and I think one of the most important themes in music, or scores, as I should say, for us in any movie, was the movie Predator.
Oh, classic, man. What's scarier than that music?
Do you remember when we would go camping? Yes, back in the day we used to camp. Do you remember when we go camping and we'd be playing that?
Oh man, yeah, you guys got me with that. Think you said something like, "Hey, go over there, beyond the clearing," or something like that. And then seconds later, I hear
you popping out from behind trees. It's like just trying to do the clicks. Remember the time I caved in the roof of my car? Was it the hood or was it the top?
The hood. The hood. It was the hood, right?
No. I think it was the roof of the car. Because,
yeah, it was the roof of the car. That's right.
Because I jumped from the tree and tried to barrel roll over the roof.
All that was going through my mind is now I understand why they asked me to come camping. So they could murder me Predator style.
And the funny part is I almost did by accident. Remember I was trying to throw the knife at the tree? And the butt of the knife hit the tree and it bounced back at you. And it bounced back. And dude, I think my favorite, I don't care, I'm getting into stories. This isn't normal podcast talk, but I'm talking about it. My favorite is when we all went tubing down that river.
Oh.
Because we wanted to try it. We wanted to try tubing. And we had my tube, and we hooked you and Lenny up together by a rope. Because he didn't know how to swim,
right?
And we just had the cooler in another tube, so we were just drinking.
That's right.
And my favorite part is when we were coming up to this beaver dam, and we had to go around it. And I was fine. I'm going around it, and Lenny, for dear life, is trying to paddle around it. Yeah. And you're like, "I'll help," and you're just like in the water just doing that, and with a drink in the other hand, like you could care absolutely less about what was happening at that moment, barreling towards that beaver dam.
I don't hear about beavers killing people, okay? So I wasn't as concerned as I should have been, all right? Maybe a pointy stick will break the tubes, okay? We'll pop the tubes. That I didn't think of until now. But at that time,
but he was
What was I supposed to do? Put my drink down?
I think you even said it that day. I think you said that.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do? Put this down? And you just kept drinking.
I'm still the same human being, okay? Of course I had that thought at the time. What am I supposed to put this there? Use two hands? What am I supposed to do with this?
Dude, the fact that basically most of our friendship has just been about screwing off and not doing what we're supposed to do and coming up with like asinine ideas like video games,
Right.
video games and stuff like that.
Classic, man.
Always
So
been
many ideas. Two idea guys getting together. It doesn't matter where they are. You know, things are gonna happen. Things that should have been out there by now. We invented video games that have basically been made 30 times since.
And we invented them.
We invented them.
Remember
We came up with them. Our goal wasn't to be video game creators either. Just think about that. Imagine if that was our goal.
that was us not wanting to work.
Oh, I know.
And we were stock managers, so we made everybody else put the stock away while we came up with ideas.
Well, we came up with ideas. You know what? Let's think of a video game while we're here. Everybody else is working, sweating.
We were the worst. It was great, though.
Great.
And I got to tell you, one of my favorite things. Dude, remember the time we went camping and you and I carried that huge cooler of alcohol? We weren't even drinking it. We carried it around because we thought we would start the party somewhere. and we ended up at the end of this very long trail in the woods. I think we fell asleep. I think like you were up against one tree and I'm like over in the corner sleeping and like the cooler's just sitting there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's right.
Because we told people like, hey, this is where the party is. And we thought, hey, this is where the party is going to be. And we just waited until we ripped Van Winkle the whole thing.
It was supposed to be like a Budweiser commercial or something where like, you know, everybody just shows up, like, you know, all the parties. Somebody's got a volleyball set. That's the way it's supposed to be. It wasn't like that, though.
Dude, we thought that party was going to get started, and we were so wrong.
So wrong.
But in such an immaculate fashion, because we still had people we were camping with at the time.
Right.
We just took the cooler of beer.
Went off on our own.
And not to drink it, to offer it to other people for a party. Everybody we passed were like, hey, we're going down this trail to party. Come join us. And nobody came.
We thought it was going to be so epic that things were going to be in slow motion. And nothing happened. And nothing happened, man.
I think we wanted our dazed and confused moment.
Yeah.
Again, another movie where nothing really happens. They're just trying to get through a party.
That's right.
And not even going to get in trouble. They're just trying to go to a party.
Right. That's it.
And that's it. And music is such a huge part of it.
I know. It's classic, man. There's so many.
Well, I'm going to end the podcast portion of this.
All right.
So we keep finishing. We're going to keep finishing it, and we'll talk a little bit. But before I finish the podcast, I wanted to say to you, what do you have coming up? Anything you want to plug, or just your social media or anything like that?
Well, I can basically be found anywhere under Unlisted Artist or Unlisted Productions. I mean, right now, as we've said before, a lot of things are on hold right now, but, there's a lot of projects out there. And like I said before, I'm always looking for, to work with, artists that are just coming up that want to make something different, that have that kind of the inspiration or aspiration to create something different, a lot of the artists that are out there right now, they seem to be all trying to get into the same lane. So,
yeah.
That's what I do. And, I'm doing it more because I love the music and I want to keep the genre strong, so.
Well, I love that too, and we talked about that, and for anybody who is out there, reach out to Unlisted Productions or Unlisted Artists on social media, and definitely, if you're you want to record, just even advice. I think you'd be great for just that, just to give advice on how to do it all. And I got to tell you, I love so much that I got you on the show.
I'm glad. I'm so glad I'm here, man. I'm so thankful for this.
Yeah, man. Well, anytime, you're always welcome on the show. Even just as a guest panelist to make fun of me.
While you're trying to do very serious interviews with people.
All I want to do is now have a serious interview on Zoom and have you there. And anytime somebody asks, "Oh, well, who is that?" and you're just like, look at the camera and you're like, "Money is money," and that's it. That's all you say.
Money is money.
And I'm just like that. That's my money guy. And then I think that would just be epic. But for everybody listening or watching, make sure you go check it out. Dee and I go back a long, long way. It's just always a great time talking to you, and I'm so happy with how much success you're seeing. I wish I could have been a small part of it, but I am in no way, shape, or form connected to it in any way.
No, but you know what though, having you around it, really was great for me, and I hope it was great for you too. We bounced ideas off each other, we inspired each other. So, who knows, if I hadn't met you, maybe I would have decided to go a different route in life and never wind up doing what I love. So, I'm very thankful to have had you. Like, even if we didn't work on any projects like that, I mean, this, we still have the future.
Well, I mean, and I also got just being friends with you too, and inspiring me like with what you did to do my own thing. But even like to go so big, like a lot of people like see what I do and they're like, "Why do you have like 9 shows?" And I'm like, because I'm not trying to build a podcast. I'm trying to build a channel. Right. And I always have been, and I always want. And it's not just me. I have other people on there and things like that. I don't want to be the face of it. I just want to create it. And I want to give an outlet to artists, and a lot of that comes from your philosophies on things. So it's always appreciated.
That's beautiful.
I mean, and I've always said to Dee, like, we might need a music podcast. So, plenty of music shows out there. Get in on that. But yeah, Dee, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. I'm going to end the podcast portion of this. Thank you, everybody. Make sure you go check out our social media. Give us likes and subscribes. Helps us out to monetize. It's thescenesnobs.com. You can find any of our links on social media. I'm at the Scene Snob. Reach out to us, Dee over at Unlisted Artists or Unlisted Productions, and I am at the Scene Snob. So thank you, everybody, and take care.